Hello folks, this is Johnny again with today, finally, the vocal mixing tutorial. Yeah. So I got here the song Parallax again, the same one that I used throughout the whole metal production tutorial series thingy that I did. And those vocals in here are made by Magor. I guess that's how you pronounce his name. I'm not sure. Very good vocalist. You can check out his stuff. I put a link in the description to his channel, and also download this song from my SoundCloud page, and also download a second vocal version from my SoundCloud page made by Tate. Also very good vocalists, both of them very good in their own ways. Anyways, let's get started. When vocals come in, things get much more interesting because vocals and guitars like to take up the same frequencies. So giving both of them the balance to both still be very present, especially in this progressive kind of metal, you want both to be quite in your face. Things get much more tricky. But anyways, we'll go through it step by step. So while you're recording, you may, well, first you want to make sure that you have some kind of foam cover on your mic or some pop filter to get rid of any annoying low-end wobbling stuff, or you know, those pop sounds. And also, while you're recording or singing into the mic, make sure you don't sing straight into the mic. Maybe sing a little bit above the mic, because while you're exhaling, while singing or screaming or whatever it is that you're doing, you know, this air hitting the mic, it creates this weird and of course you don't want this in your recording. So make sure you get that right at the very first thing. And of course, as always, clipping is forbidden. So once you have recorded your stuff, what you may want to do first is do a little bit of editing work. I know it's annoying, but for the sake of getting the best out of it, you should take a look at this. So, for example, what I edited out in here is the short inhales just before a vocal line. For example, this one right here. You hear this very short? So I just cut this out and put a little fade in here just to make sure it's a smooth start of the vocal line again, so I don't have a click in there. And I pretty much do this throughout the whole thing. Of course, when there's an inhale right in the middle of a line, like down here,
sounds do
you hear the short up here somewhere again.
Swiftly sounds,
but that's fine, you know. When it's in the middle of the line, just think you want also to keep it natural. So that's okay. Now, further thing you probably want to edit is the volume. As you can see on this particular take, vocals are so highly dynamic. I mean, up here it's very loud and down here it's very quiet. Now, that doesn't mean that Evan is a bad vocalist or that you're a bad vocalist or anything. That's just a very natural thing that happens. When you're singing higher, you also sing louder. When you're singing deeper, you also sing quieter. It's how it is. So let me sing all this one track. Just listen to it.
Send to hell where you fell.
So what you may want to do first when it's really this drastic, is you cut this up a little bit, like this for example, and then you adjust the volumes a little bit to make it somewhat even. You know, this is just for the sake that the compressors in the end don't have to work too hard. So you can just do something like this.
Sent to hell, where you fell.
Truth be told, I didn't do it throughout the whole thing because I was too lazy. But don't do as I did, do as I say. Because I'm being a little hypocritic here. Anyway, let's move on to the more interesting stuff. So what I like to put first in the signal chain is a de-esser. Now this is basically nothing else than a compressor, but it's acting on higher frequency ranges. It's just to take out the harshness of hard T and S sounds, you know? That's why it's called a de-esser. Duh. So, listen to this first part, for example, again.
Interesting how these tailored spines shift with me.
You can already hear those, those typical sounds, those which stick out very harshly through the mix. So I put a de-esser in there, and it's all smooth.
Interesting how these tailored spines shift with me.
Okay. And then next thing I like to do is put an EQ, but just for a low cut, because you hear there in the background, of course this was again recorded at home, I suppose, and you hear this low end wobbling down there. It could be from, you know, this exhale. It could also be for other reasons, I don't know. Anyway, to get rid of this, or to get rid of the bigger part of this, just put a low cut in there. Now, depending on the recording, depending on the vocalist, depending on the mic, this cut can be anywhere actually. I had recordings where just cut around 80 Hertz. I also had recordings where I had to cut up to 200 Hertz. So just play around with it. Also play around with the Q, you know, where it just seems in balance, that you don't lose too much of the low chesty power, but that you still get rid of any annoying stuff that you do not want in there.
Interesting how these tailored spines shift with me.
So now next thing that I like to put in there is the declicker. But in here I don't use the actual declicker function, but only this deplop. And I put the slide to about 100. Now this is again just to get rid of those pop sounds, you know, if there are any. Fortunately, in this whole recording session of Evan, none occurred. But still, to get rid of some of those still slight low-end weird sounds that occur here in the beginning, I use this just a little bit, you know. So
interesting how these tailored spines.
Anyway, low end is cleared up. Okay, now let's come to the compressors. Here it gets very interesting. I have two compressors in line. The first one is more acting like a limiter. So I have kind of a hard ratio, about 4:1, and fast attack, slow release, like you want it for vocals, you want it to even out. And then I also turn on the soft knee, because what the soft knee does, it's changing the shape of this compression. As you see here, this has a sharp edge, and this is what it looks like without the soft knee. Unfortunately, this compressor right here doesn't show it visually, but with the soft knee, this edge is reshaped into a kind of a curve, you know. So you don't really hear it being compressed. It sounds more natural. And that's what you want for vocals. Of course, for example, for drums, you would not use soft knee. At least I wouldn't use soft knee, because you want the drums to really hit this wall of compression, you know, so you need a sharp edge in there to have this punch coming out of it. Anyway, as I turn this on, you'll notice it's not even being triggered throughout this whole first part.
Interesting how these tailored spines shift with me.
You see, it's only triggered at louder parts like up here or when several vocal tracks are coming together.
Interesting how anytime you speak, mine does break.
See, it's just a first evening out and gluing all the vocal tracks together. So as you can probably figure, I have all vocal tracks, or at least all the singing vocal tracks, into one bus. So then the second compressor. This is doing the final knockdown of the dynamics. Here I have a softer ratio of about 2:1. Again, softening is turned on, fast attack, slow release, and then I apply the threshold that it's constantly compressing now.
Interesting how these tailored spines shift with me. Interesting how anytime you speak, mine does break.
Yeah, that's sounding good already. Now let's come to the boosting EQ. Very important thing here, and I guess now is also a good time to bring in the EQs of the guitars again. So, you can probably already guess what the idea is in here. Now, you probably read a lot or hear in other tutorials that you can boost around 100 Hertz to give the vocals a bit more of a chesty low end and fullness and volume, you know. In my experience, to be honest, I don't have that much experience now with vocals, but still, from what I learned so far, when you have homemade recordings where there's always some kind of low-end muddiness going on, or there's always the potential for danger for this to happen, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to boost around 100 Hertz, because as you heard before, there's a lot of low-end annoyingness going on, and I already cut out all the low-end, and the 100 Hertz mark is already being lowered pretty much, and with the deplopper it's totally killed. So boosting this again wouldn't make a lot of sense. When you have very good recordings and professional recordings that are more studio-like, then of course this is a whole different thing. Now, one option is to boost one octave higher, around 200 Hertz. The problem with my situation particular now is at that range I have the snare drum boosted. So again, not very good. Shifting the snare drum boost a little bit lower so I can put the vocal boost a bit higher, around 250 Hertz, is also not optional, because that's the same frequency I have the guitars. So you see, there's always some things that are potentially standing in each other's way, and this is what you need to look out for to maintain clarity in everything. So what I did, or I got told what's a good idea, to boost another octave higher, around 400 Hertz. And this is what I did here, 400 Hertz boost. But now respectively, I had to lower that frequency on the guitars, because if I don't do this, then both things, guitars and vocals, again stand in each other's way. It's maybe not that noticeable at first, also when you're just starting off with this kind of stuff. But really, you notice then the vocals are not as present as they could be with this lowering of the guitars. Also, the other way around, the guitars are not as clear coming out, because then again the vocals are standing in the way. So you see, it's all a kind of puzzle that you need to put together to really make it all fit. Then the next boost for vocals, now you get a lot of clarity between the 2 to 3 kilohertz section. So I like to boost this one a little bit. Now again, depending on your vocalist and on the mics and the recording situation, you need to shift around this area somewhere. Respectively, you want to lower this frequency on the guitars. What you do not want to boost on the vocals is somewhere between 3 and 5 kilohertz. That's quite dangerous because you get a kind of baby cry noise from there. So be careful with this. But good thing is, at that particular range, you can boost the guitars again for more presence. See, it's beautiful how it just all comes together. Then what you also want to do is boost the air section of the vocals just a little bit to get more, or again, depending on the recording, you can boost it just a little bit or you can boost it a lot. The idea is to get more brilliance and more sparkle in there. Here's the before and after again.
Interesting how these tailored spines shift with me. Interesting how anytime you speak.
Yeah, that's already sounding pretty good. So basically now it's already sitting in the mix with the compression and the EQ.
Interesting how these tailored spines shift with me.